Welcome, Lumineers and fans of the happiest card game on earth. The full set release of Rise of the Floodborn has now happened. The app has been updated. There's been a few cards sort of posted in various news articles, but we now have the full set to look at. We're going to dive in and cover every single one. We start off with a 5-costed inkable 1/9 for 2 lore, Eudora, accomplished seamstress, storyborn ally with a common rarity in art by Lisette Carrera. This is Tiana's mother, for those of you who don't know, and she's an absolute tank, but she's a vanilla and we've got a lot to get through, so there's not really much more to say about her. Next up, a 3-costed inkable 3/3 for 1 lore, Gaston, baritone bully, dreamborn villain with uncommon rarity, art by Joachim van Gool, and the ability Singer 5. Actually quite playable, this one. Nice to see another amber villain as an option, and Singer 5 on a 3-costed body is obviously incredibly strong with Ariel. He's not going and looking for songs, but still he's going to be able to cast some of your larger Amber Steel songs lots quicker. Yep, can definitely see him having home in the deck. Another 3-cost inkable 2/3 for 2 lore, Mulan, free spirit, dreamborn hero princess with support. Common card with art by Amber Koma Vongza. This is your target for Floodborn Reflecting, and unfortunately doesn't mean that you're going to be able to play Reflecting shifted on curve, but still not a terrible body, and most likely we'll see play in a Sapphire Amber support deck, maybe? I don't know, I'm going to have a good look at support. I don't feel like he's very strong in set 1, but there's an awful lot of it in set 2, and I feel like there may be a sleeper hit there. 2-costed inkable 1/3 for 1 lore, Nana, darling family pet. She's a storyborn ally with Nursemaid. Whenever you play a Floodborn character, you may remove all damage from a chosen character, an uncommon card with art by Felipe Laurentino. So this is the Amber version of the cycle that cares about Floodborns being played, and obviously leans into the Amber concept of healing quite a bit. It's not a terrible ability, but I'm not sure it's very strong enough to see play in a Floodborn Matters deck. A 3-costed inkable 2/4 for 2 lore in Piglet, very small animal. Storyborn ally with common art by Kirsten Hale. Inevitable target for a Floodborn Piglet mecha god, but for right now he's a vanilla. 2-costed inkable 2/3 for 1 lore in Snow White, Lost in the Forest. A storyborn hero princess with the ability I Won't Hurt You. When you play this character, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. Common card with art by Lady Shalarin. And this is perfectly acceptable. Nice to have a little heal on a body that's coming down. This pretty much solely exists to be the Floodborn target for the other Snow White we're going to look at in a moment outside of the Dwarfs Matters deck. She's a 6-costed uninkable 3/5 for 2 lore, Snow White Wellwisher, Floodborn hero princess with shift 4 and wishes come true. Whenever this character quests, you may return a character card from your discard to your hand. Legendary character here with art by Javi Salas. This is really quite good. It is basically a repeatable Hades in a similar costed slot, as long as you can shift her, but with a much better body. Hades, the 4-slot one, is absolutely fantastic and sees a lot of play in Amber decks because the recursion from the graveyard is a really good ability just in general, but also is fantastic after a board wipe. So you just get Be Prepared. As long as you've got a Hades in your hand, you can usually start getting a board presence pretty quick. Snow White, as long as she's shifted, will be able to work as quickly as Hades, but she won't quite have that immediate hit after a board wipe. But if she can stick around, which with 5 on the butt she may well be able to, you're starting to get a lot of value out of her. Honestly, I think she's very, very playable, but I don't think she replaces Hades. I think if you can squeeze them both in, you probably run both of them in the deck because they both have slight strengths and weaknesses. Unfortunately, both of those are being uninkable, so you may not have room for both of them. But yeah, this is a very playable Amber legendary. I think Amber has got 2 very solid legendaries in Snow White and Mufasa this set. Next up, a 1-costed inkable 2/2 for 1, the Queen, Regal Monarch, storyborn villain queen with common rarity and art by Ava Weideman. This is a goon, plain and simple, and she is there as the Floodborn target for the 5-drop queen that features on the box of the starter deck. Interestingly, this does mean you're going to be able to shift the larger queen out on turn 2. It's kind of a crazy play to have a 4/3 quester on turn 2 that's going to start letting combat challenges happen the turn later, most likely. It's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. I was not expecting a 1-costed queen in this set. I did think that the shift 2 from the 5-drop queen was more of a shift across as opposed to a shift up. So yeah, that one was not on my Rise of the Floodborn bingo card. And neither was this, a 2-costed uninkable item in Amber, Sleepy's Flute. A silly song, you can exert this, and if you played a song this turn, you can gain a lore. It's a rare card with art by Antonia Fleshig. Wow, this is great. This is something I've said for a long time, that the song deck needs a way to actually get you to the win con. Not that the song deck really needed help, it's easily the strongest deck in the game right now, but I've always said that it will really sort of explode if the songs that you're playing are going to be able to get you closer to that lore total, as well as just giving you the value from the engine. And here it is. 2 cost uninkable. Whether or not it actually finds space in the song deck, obviously that space is pretty much taken up by some of the lower costed songs like Part of Your World, Be Our Guest, Zero to Heroes, probably going to see some play. I think World's Greatest Criminal Mind might see some play in that deck, so very difficult space to find a slot for it, but you know, it's just going to get you closer to winning every time you play any of those songs. So I do think this one probably sees a spot in that deck, even if it does slow it down ever so slightly. I didn't really have 2 more Dr. Facilier's down as something we were going to see in Rise of the Floodborn either, but here we are. A 4-costed inkable 4/2 for 1 lore with evasive. Dr. Facilier Savvy Opportunist is a storyborn villain sorcerer. A common card with art by Leonardo Giamichel. A solid shift target for Argent Provocateur, but otherwise, you know, an evasive questing for 1 lore probably isn't where you want to really be on turn 4. I think you might find the 2-drop with Challenger still sees play over this one as the shift target currently. 5-costed inkable 3/7 for 2 lore. Fairy Godmother here to help. She's a storyborn ally fairy. Uncommon card with art by Hedvig Harmonsund. Fairy Godmother kind of exploded into the scene at the end of the reveals. We got 3 of them all together, all in Amethyst. I think this is probably the weakest one, with it just being an uncommon vanilla, but still really good to see. Fantastic art. The other ones are a little bit more interesting. We have a 5-costed inkable 3/4 for 2 lore. A Fairy Godmother Mystic Armorer, Floodborn Mentor Fairy with Shift 2. And forget the coach, here's a sword. Whenever this character quests, your characters gain Challenger +3. And when this character is banished in a challenge, return this card to your hand this turn. Legendary card with art by Felipe Laurentino. First of all, adore the fact that we have a full alternate universe story of Cinderella in this set, with her becoming the knight and the Fairy Godmother here giving her the sword. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Love it to bits. And actually a very solid card as well. It's interesting that this is Amethyst. It feels more of a Ruby or a Steel ability, but even still, this is pretty solid. It's basically a decent quester that's just going to let everything else clean the board up. You know, all of your 2/2s that are going to be swinging for 5/2 and then coming back to the hand to replay. I definitely think things like Dr. Facilier Argent Provocateur needs to have another look at it now with all of this stuff that cares about bouncing. But yeah, this is really good. I can see this one seeing play. We don't have the perfect shift target for it, but we do have the 3-costed inkable one that needs to see Cinderella. That's probably the only downside to this one, is that neither of those other 2 are particularly incredible. We could really do with like a 1-costed Fairy Godmother here that just sort of comes out and maybe has Challenger 1. I don't know. The Fairy Godmother's a brawler, man. 2-costed inkable 2/1 for 1 lore. Hey Hey Persistent Presence is a Dreamborn ally with He's Back. When this character is banished in a challenge, return this card to your hand. Uncommon card with art by Ellie Horry. Incredible. They left this one to the last minute because they knew we would all freak out over it and ignore all of the other reveals. Absolutely incredible art, like really thematic ability. Not a terrible ability either. I'll talk about that in a moment. But first of all, power, beauty, Hey Hey. I love how some of the flavor text is getting really quite unhinged in this set. But this is one of those ones that I'm going to sit here now and say, this is probably fine, but in 2 months' time, this is in a meta deck. That's genuinely what I think is going to happen here. 2/1 that just constantly gets thrown back into your hand. Oh man, if this thing had Rush, it would be insane. But even without it, I honestly think this sees play. I really do. And I think this is going to be one of those ones that we look back on and say, whoa, weren't we all sleeping on Hey Hey? Next up, a 5-costed inkable 2/5 for 2 lore in Amethyst. Madam Mim, Rival of Merlin, a Floodborn villain sorcerer with Shift 3 and the ability Gruesome and Grim. You can exert her, play a character with cost 4 or less for free, and they gain Rush at the end of the turn. You banish them. This is a rare card with art by Mane Candelan and Pix Smith. Incredible art on this one. This one was actually shown on Sunday before the full drop, but I'm just sort of putting it into here because I didn't have time Sunday night to do a video. But yeah, this is really solid. Not only is this... so Gruesome and Grim is a card in itself. This is one of those ones where the ability of the card is on a character. And whilst the card, I think, was okay, I think having this on a body that is actually going to be quite happy to exert is really quite good. You're going to want to play this with all of the Merlins, but honestly, anything that has an enter play ability is really good. There is actually, and I don't use this term lightly, there is an infinite combo with this card alongside Argent Provocateur and LeFou Instigator. We will look at that in a separate video because I think it's an important moment in Lorcana history. The first time we actually have a loopable mechanic that we can do as many times as we want to or are able to in our single turn. I'm pretty sure it's the first time it's happened. Everything else has usually been capped out by the amount of ink you have. This hasn't. So we'll look at that in a separate video in more detail because I think it's an interesting topic to discuss. Forecasted Inkable item in Amethyst Binding Contract for all eternity. You can exert this card and exert one of your characters to exert a chosen character. Uncommon card with art by Cassia Brzezinska. I'm so sorry, that's terrible. Your name isn't terrible, the way I said it is terrible. I'm sorry, Cassia. Really beautiful art on a probably unplayable card, honestly, unfortunately. Exerting characters is strong, but this is just way too expensive. A one-costed inkable item in Amethyst Croquet Mallet. Hurtling Hedgehog. Banish this item. Chosen character gains rush this turn. Common card with art by Matt Chapman. You all know how I feel about these banish items. I don't think they're very good. Four-costed inkable 4/3 for 2 lore. Arthur. Trained Swordsman. A Dreamborn Hero. Common card with art by Mario Oscar Gabriel. Beautiful art. Very mid-vanilla. I mean, this drop at the end is always going to be a lot of vanillas, right? They could save all of the vanillas for this, to be honest with you, and I wouldn't mind. 7-costed inkable 4/4 for 3 lore. Dr. Facilier, Fortune Teller, Storyborn Villain Sorcerer with Evasive, and You're in My World. Whenever this character quests, chosen opponent character can't quest during their next turn. A super rare with art by Ron Baird. This I actually think is pretty good. It's a 7 cost, so it becomes the new sort of top end to your aggressive Emerald deck. If you get there, you know, it's playable, but honestly, a lot of these decks are winning before that. I feel like this meta will slow the game down a little bit, but still, really good quester. 4/4 with Evasive for 3 is really great. And you know what? That's Jasper's ability, and Jasper was a bit of a sleeper hit for me personally in this first set. So I can actually see this seeing play. It's maybe just a little overcosted. A 6 cost with this ability I think would have been acceptable. But we'll see. I do think this one could see some fringe play just as the top end of that aggressive deck that maybe gets a little stalled out and needs a big hitter to take it over the finish line. 2-costed inkable 1/3 for 1 lore. Gaston, Scheming Suitor, Storyborn Villain with Yes, I'm Intimidating. While one or more opponents have no cards in their hands, this character gets +3 strength. Common card with art by Valerio Buonfantino. Perfectly solid common, I think. Don't think it'll particularly see much play because the chances of their hand being empty when it's going to be able to do anything, I think, is pretty low. But it does have the possibility of being a decent shift target for the Sapphire Gaston in a Sapphire Emerald Floodborn Matters deck, which I very much think is going to be a thing. Whether those cards are both impactful enough to make it into that deck, though, we'll have to wait and see. 2-costed inkable 1/4 for 1 lore. Pain, Underworld Imp, Storyborn Ally, coming your most lugubriousness. While this character has 5 strength or more, he gets +2 lore. Uncommon card with art by Christina Chori and Mariana Moreno. So this one obviously pairs right next to Panic, and okay, so I kind of half called it. As soon as I saw Panic, I was like, well, that artwork is lining up. This does line up, but not the way I thought it would. It actually lines up with Pain on the left. I totally thought Pain would be on the other side with the other half of the Hades outfit there. So kind of right. I'll take that as a half win. 2 really great little commons and uncommons here. I mean, the dream is to get both of these in a draft. Pain comes down on turn 2, sits there looking relatively inoffensive. You drop Panic on turn 3, and Pain suddenly starts questing for 3. That's pretty good, actually. And the nice thing is you can choose what you want to do. Panic can come down on 3 and either make Pain a massive hitter, or if there isn't really a great target and you feel like you can start getting ahead on the board, he quests for 3. I don't know. It's perfect hand needed for this to play out as well as it can. The floor on this is pretty low, really. It's a 1/4 and a 2/3 I don't know, 2-3 for 2 lore isn't terrible on Panic, but I love the theme on these, and if you can pull them off, that's a great little combo. Next up, a 5-costed Inkable 3-4 for 2 lore. Pete, bad guy, Storyborn villain with Ward, and take that whenever you play an action. This character gets +2 strength this turn, and who's next? While this character has 7 strength or more, he gets +2 lore. So again, kind of similar to Pain and Panic there. You can boost this character up through actions, and he can either be a huge hitter or a great quester. He's a rare card with art by Hedwig Hagman Sund. I'm not sure about this one. I still don't see action matters being a thing. Emerald Ruby action matters. There's enough cards for it. I just don't feel like you're getting enough value out of wanting to play all of these low-cost actions that you're going to need to do to really make these cards pop off. But maybe somebody less smooth brain than me can figure it out. I look forward to seeing it if they can. 4-costed Inkable 4-1 for 2 lore. Radigan Criminal Mastermind, a Dreamborn villain with evasive, and common card with art by Michaela Martin. Beautiful art on this one. Some of my favorite from the set. Really pops. And this is a fine common, I guess. You know, evasive is good, and, you know, the one willpower is pretty low. It gets pinged off by a lot of things, but otherwise the evasive is kind of covering its back. Not sure it'll see play unless I forget what I've got to look at what the Radigan Floodborn was. We didn't get a Radigan Floodborn, no. So no, currently I don't think this one sees much play. 5-costed Inkable 5-3 for 3 lore. Tiana, True Princess, Storyborn Hero Princess, uncommon, with art by Casey Robin. Amazing art. And perfectly acceptable uncommon that you would take midway through a draft, but otherwise not much else to say. 2-costed Inkable 2-3 for 1 lore. Buin, Precocious Entrepreneur, Storyborn Ally, common card with art by Alice Persone. Buin's a great character from Raya and the Last Dragon, but his card is incredibly whelming. We move on to a 1-costed Inkable 3-1. In Ruby, Felicia, Always Hungry, Dreamborn Ally, with Reckless, common card with art by Cookie. 3-1 Reckless is good. They could have given it Rush and made it slightly higher rarity, and I would have been very happy about it, but as it stands, I don't know. I found that I very often wasn't able to do what I wanted to with Gaston, a 4-2, but the fact that Felicia comes down a little earlier, honestly, Felicia comes down turn 1 and kills a Lilo on turn 2, you're probably happy. So actually, maybe Reckless is better on lower costed cards. Reckless is really good early on just to do some early board disruption. It definitely gets less powerful as it goes on. Tuk that I think we looked at last video seems almost unplayable, and he's basically just a larger statted version of this. So yeah, maybe Reckless is good low to the ground. 6-costed Uninkable 3-4 for 2 lore. Lady Tremaine, Imperious Queen, Floodborn Villain Queen with Shift 4, cost reduction of 2, and power to rule at last. When you play this character, each opponent chooses and banishes one of their characters. A super rare with art by Ariana Ray. Really great Floodborn in Ruby. Very, very playable, I think. Unfortunately, the thing that's going to let her down is that she's uninkable, as is an inkable shift target that also isn't particularly very good. The 2-2 that lets you lose a lore if somebody else has got more than you. Still haven't seen the very playable card from Lady Tremaine yet. Unfortunately, this is getting there, but not having a good Floodborn target is definitely affecting it. 4-costed uninkable 3-3 for 1 lore. Namari Nemesis, Storyborn Villain Princess. This shouldn't take long. You can exert her and banish her to banish chosen character. A super rare with art by Hedwig Hagman Sund. I don't know why they keep giving us bad Namari cards. I don't think this is playable. I think this is kind of trash, and I will be very disappointed if I open more than one of these super rares. 5-costed Inkable 4-3 for 1 lore. Queen of Hearts, Sensing Weakness, Floodborn Villain Queen with Shift 2 and Let the Game Begin. Whenever one of your characters challenges another character, you may draw a card. Uncommon. Card with Isaiah Mesk art, and this is so much better than the last one, and this is uncommon. Probably so much better than the last 2 super rares in Ruby. This is a great uncommon. You're going to be able to get her out nice and early. You can get her down on 3, I guess, if the Ruby Queen of Hearts doesn't have anything to rush into or somehow survives the rushing into. Or, I'd play her on top of the Emerald one as well, because she's just the Emerald one is just an unplayability. You are actually losing a lore by doing that, but the card draw in Ruby is going to be very, very liked. I think this is very playable. Really playable, in fact. Oh, here's Tuk. So, no, we didn't talk about it in our last video. A 4-costed Inkable 4/5, Tuk Wrecking Ball, Storyborn Ally, Reckless, rare card with art by Brian Weiss. This is a terrible rare and is unplayable. 1 costed Inkable action in Ruby. What did you call me? Chosen damage character gets +3 strength this turn. Common card with art by Luis Huerta. Combat trick, which I don't rate particularly highly in this game, but it's a cheap Inkable combat trick that really leans into what Ruby's trying to do. It's also incredibly flavorful. Maybe we'll see some fringe play. 3 costed Inkable 1/3 for 3 lore. Caterpillar, Common Collected, and uncommon Dreamborn with art by Corey Godbey. Great looking card. It's quite a well-studied vanilla. 2 costed Inkable 1/2 for 2 lore. Duke Weaselton, Small Time Crook. He's a Storyborn with Ward. Common card with art by Rosa LaBarbera and Leonardo G. Michel. I will be sitting on him for the Duke Weaselton Floodborn next set. We have a 4 costed uninkable 3/3 for 2 lore with James, Role Model, Storyborn Mentor. Never ever lose sight. When this character is banished, you may put this card into your Inkwell face down and exerted. A common card with art by Kevin Hung. That uninkability is probably going to make this card live or die. It's actually quite a well-studied card with a pretty good ability for Sapphire, honestly. James is Tiana's dad, by the way. I'm only saying that because every time in work a card from Princess and the Frog is revealed, nobody knows where it's from because it's one of the ones they haven't all seen, and I assume that probably carries over to the larger world. It's very good, by the way. You should go and watch it. It was the last Disney 2D animation, and it's incredible. But yeah, James, this is good. This is good. Slightly bigger Grandma Tala. The fact that it's uninkable, I mean, technically it is going to get you the ink eventually. Could see some play in the Sapphire ramp, I think. A 1 costed inkable 1/2 for 1 lore. Jasmine, Heir of Agrabah, Storyborn Hero Princess. I'm a fast learner. When you play this character, remove up to 1 damage from a chosen character of yours. She's a common card with art by R.L. Barbara and Gia Michelle. This is really good. It does what Sapphire wants to do. You could play this on turn 2 or 3 or turn 8 or turn 1, honestly, and be kind of happy about it because Sapphire wants to see stuff getting healed, and it gives us a really great Floodborn target for Queen of Agrabah from set 1, the 5 costed 2/5 for 2 that also does a lot of healing, which again I do think we'll see play in the Sapphire healing build. So this was the Floodborn target we were waiting for. Really good card. Next up, 2 costed Inkable 1/2 for 2 lore in Noi. Orphaned Thief, Storyborn Ally with the ability Hide and Seek. When you have an item in play, this character gains Resist 1 and Ward. It's a rare card with art by Christina Cherry. Noi is a great character from Raya and the Last Dragon. Great to see her here as well. On a relatively playable rare, I think. This goes in an item deck and not probably anywhere else. But this is filler that gives you a relatively solid quester in the early to mid game. Yeah, can definitely see this one being played in the item deck. 5 costed Inkable 4/6 for 2 Rabbit, Reluctant Host in Sapphire, Storyborn Ally. A common card with art by Julia Reaver. Great to see Rabbit in the game. Vanilla. Next up, a 4 costed Inkable 4/3 for 1 lore in The Knock, Water Spirit, Storyborn with Ward. Common card with art by Hajj Juice. The Knock is the water spirit from Frozen 2, for those of you who are wondering. I had to look this one up, to be honest with you. I have seen Frozen 2 a few times, but this one did not stick in my brain. It's, common card. It's a French vanilla. It's you've got Ward, sure. 3 costed Inkable item in Sapphire, Maurice's Workshop. Looking for this. Whenever you play another item, you may pay 1 to draw a card. Rare card with art by Antonia Fleshzig. Whether or not the item deck can spare another uninkable, I'm not sure, but actually this is relatively solid. It's an item that wants you to play items in the item deck for items. 6 costed Inkable 2/8 for 1 lore, Beast, Selfless Protector, Storyborn Hero Prince with Shield. Another, when one of your other characters would be dealt damage, put that many damage counters on this character instead. This is a super rare with art by Matthew Robert Davis, and this is the last piece we were looking for to feature on the promotional material. This is the art from one of the packs. It's actually quite similar design in the character to Beast Relentless, although the background is obviously very different. And the Beast, he's trying to do something. It's a lot of pinging for damage and getting value out of that. I actually think this is really good. The only reason I'm a little bit disappointed about this one is because we don't have a Floodborn target for Beast Tragic Hero. The quickest the Floodborn target can come out is on 5, whether he's shifted or not at the moment. So I was expecting this one, because it's relatively traditional looking art of him, I was expecting this one to be just a smaller vanilla, or maybe something that just sort of pings when it comes out or something like that. This is actually a really interesting ability though. This basically protects 3 other characters from a grab your sword, 4 other characters, sorry, from a grab your sword. So you can have this and 4 other guys out. And it dies and nothing else takes any damage from a grab your swords, which is kind of crazy. The interesting thing here is that it's not a May ability. You have to do it. So whenever one of your other characters would be dealt damage, put that many counters on this character's head. It's not a you may put that many, and that would have been really great, I think, because occasionally you might be happy for something else to die, and to keep beasts alive to protect something else later on. But basically, yeah, this thing just sits there and just soaks up damage from everything else that's doing all of your challenging that you want Steel to be doing. Really good card. The fact that it's inkable is fantastic. Definitely will see lots of play in Steel decks, I think. I just weirdly was hoping for a worse card, or at least a cheaper card, that we could shift the Sad Beast onto. 3 costed inkable 2/3 for 2 lore next in Benja, Guardian of the Dragon Gem, Storyborn Mentor King. With the ability, you have a choice. When you play this character, you may banish chosen item. Common card with art by Grace Tran. This is a baby version of Beast Hard-Headed from set 1. Slightly lower cost for a slightly lower stat line, but with the same ability. I don't see this particularly seeing much play. Hercules next, a 2-costed inkable Hercules, 2/3 for 1 lore, hero in training, Storyborn Hero Prince, common card with art by Ava Weideman, and awesome flavor text on this as well. No need to call 911, but they're using Roman numerals, very nice. This is good, gives us the shift target we were really hoping for Divine Hero. As you know, Hercules True Hero is a very acceptable shift target as well, but always nice to have options. But otherwise, you know, a relatively just mid-level vanilla. 6 costed inkable 4/5 2 lore, Kronk, Junior Chipmunk, Storyborn ally with Resist 1 and Scout Leader. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may deal 2 damage to chosen character. Rare card with art by Brian Weiss. Great card, similar to Giant Tinkerbell, I guess, but without the enter the play ability. Resist 1, so technically is a counterplay to Giant Tink as well. It's very interesting to see Steel have its own counterplay to itself with all the pinging damage and resist mostly being in that color. But yeah, very playable rare, I think. I think this one will definitely see some play. 6 costed inkable 4/8 for 2, Pasha, Village Leader, Storyborn Hero. Uncommon card with art by Cunny, big statted vanilla. A 1 costed inkable 1/3 for 1 lore in Tiana, Diligent Waitress, Storyborn Hero Princess, giving us a Steel version of the cycle that's slowly getting fleshed out with Olaf and Minnie Mouse and Flynn Rider. Common card with art by Samantha Erdini. Actually, for a moment, thought this was a Floodborn target for Celebrating Princess, but she's not. She's just Dreamborn. So this is fine at the moment if you really want a big butt in Steel. Early on, this is going to get you there. And there we go. Race through those because there was a lot. So I hope you appreciate me racing through them. We'll be taking a look at all of these. Some of them perhaps a little bit more in depth tonight, if you're watching this video on the day it comes out, on our weekly live stream, This Week in Ink. Both myself and Brandon live stream every night here on the channel at 9:30 Eastern. You can join us then. We'll be going over all of the reveals. We usually talk about a lot of other stuff as well, news and market watch and competition results and stuff. But tonight it's going to be a reveal special because it's the end of the reveal season for Rise of the Floodborn. So join us for that, and we'll go all over these cards again with the opinions of both Brandon and the chat. We would love you to join us. We will see you then. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, be good.